I've been very quiet here, listening to you guys as the woman, as you explain misogyny to everyone
I knew you were going to go there. Yeah, I love women.
You know, because I'm a... Oh, you love women. I'm sure they love you, too. Listen, this is going to be determined...
They do.
If you were seeking the approval of the mountainous men, you know, that would be that'd be a good place to start. It seems, to make sure that, you know, when some dumb broad accuses you of misogyny, and then you state, "Nah, women love me," and then I'm sure women love you. They do, yeah. He gives his nod. It's just a slight nod, you know, one of those very, very small gestures, but it's enough to know that you have approval. Well done, sir. Tip of the hat. Best of luck. Hats off. Take it away. I don't know. Anyway, I just every time I see that, it's like it just makes me chuckle. Anyway, I wouldn't normally do the show this late like last time. It's really, really damn annoying that I'm having to do it this late, but a couple things came up. I was trying to do this last night, but I knew as I was typing it out, I was like, I'm not going to be able to pull it off. I'm going to fall asleep. I'm going to fall asleep again. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it tonight. There's just too much chance. However, there was a reason I was already trying to push it to the point that I was almost going to do the show before I was going to pass out, and that was because I got this ready by Friday, so this is somewhat late news, but you wouldn't know it until today. That's the problem, because there is a series of... I'll just say the focus is following up after the last episode. There's been... I mean, I knew that this thing was going to set the internet on fire, and especially in political circles, and especially when it comes to anything related to like the controversies surrounding Turning Point, and then when it comes to the Conservative Party's advocacy and any group that is within conservative media, they are going to... they're going to be definitely interested to see how this goes. I was surprised by the level of... So, in case anybody doesn't know this, in case you have no idea, hey, what's going on, MLA? Good to see you, man. Sorry for being late as hell, but this sucks. But either way, we gotta. You're gonna have to help me out, man. I'm having an existential crisis with fighting games right now, and I don't know. Anyway, that's another story. But anybody that's not really aware of this, let me just kind of put the point out. You don't have to believe me, but this is just what I've observed. If you're somebody who's in conservative media of any kind of note, like if you're a big name conservative broadcaster or something, and you have a big audience, the audience size and other conservative media groups, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt for a very long time afterwards, much longer than they probably should. So it surprised me, even though that was the case, that there's still so many people willing to somehow try to explain what Candace is doing as within the boundaries of conservatism in any way, shape, or form. I don't see anything she's done as really... I mean, it's clear, especially now, especially after what I'm going to present today, that I was 100% right after last episode. My diagnosis... You got some good news. What's the good news? I'm going to keep going, but let me know. It was clear to me that, this woman is a narcissist through and through. This isn't for money. This isn't for, pushing something that she actually believes. This is because she wants more attention, the most attention, and out of some kind of sixth sense of the idea of control, she wants to feel like she's got some clout within the circles of media to be able to get an audience that is going to follow her anywhere, basically, I think. So, that's the conclusion I've drawn, and that's after watching a lot of this shit unfold. There's nothing else I've seen that is a real. I mean, like, I don't believe it's for money. Like I said, I don't believe it's for. I sure as hell don't believe it's for chasing an honest belief of any kind. I don't think that, like, even with the way that she speaks and refuses to include specifics that are very pertinent to whatever's being talked about, there's no way that she really gives a shit about the validity of whatever it is she's saying. It's just to have a degree of like she desires to be followed and listened to and admired and respected and treated well, and thinks that she is really something. She thinks she's really something special, and she wants other people to acknowledge it. I just don't see what's so. I mean, she's got a very good way of speaking. I mean, and she's very good with presentation. I can say that, but I wouldn't. Hey, sweet, good stuff, man. Nice, congratulations. I'll have to check out your channel. I haven't actually, to be honest, man, I think back when, like, I know I didn't block you, but I think back when we had a little spat, I unsubscribed, I resubscribed, and then I unsubscribed again. I can't remember. There's a lot of back and forth there. But I'm gonna have to go double check, because I thought I jumped back up. I might be wrong, but or and this is the other thing. I think this might be the case. I am only subscribed with this channel and not with my main personal account that I usually use when I'm not gonna do a show, which is like, that's where I'm subscribed to Jay. That's where I'm subscribed to, like, most of the people I know. That's where I'm subscribed to them. So that, but a good bulk of the time I'm signed on to my main personal account. So that might be the other potential reason why I'm not noticing any kind of haven't seen any content from you, because I could have sworn that, like, at one point I did see something pop up in my feed that was from your channel, but I can't remember where it was. Anyway, I'll try and check it out, though, just to make sure I'm signed up. And if I'm not with my personal profile, I'll subscribe there too, because I've been slow on that one. But anyway, but congratulations, dude. I'm glad to hear it. Good stuff. Anyway, so what's going on here? Well, just let me kind of leap forward a little bit. So we're going to be talking about the sort of aftermath of the whole debate that went down, because this shit got wild. You got this is probably one of the more there was more revealed afterwards than during the debate. The debate showed one very major thing, which Andrew was 100% right on. It's so weird, by the way. I have to interject this, because I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. I know I've said this a lot, but I just want to interject and say it one more time. I'm not a giant Andrew Wilson fan. Like, I've got a lot of points of disagreement with Andrew Wilson. I respect the hell out of him. He's an exceptionally good content creator. He's an exceptionally good debater. He's really, really, really good at. He's exceptionally good at trolling during debate. Like, he's good at making really, like, he doesn't always do this. If it's a good faith argument, he will act in good faith during the debate. But if it's in bad faith, he's very exceptionally good at making a fool of his opponents. That's one of the best aspects of his debating style that I've noticed, is kind of like something he can't avoid. He can't help it, it almost seems like, and that's why a lot of people that he debates with call him such, "Oh, you're such a dick," and that's one reason I can't help but like the dude, because almost every single case that I've seen where he does that, they deserve it. They almost always deserve it. These are the self-assured sort of communist types, or democratic socialist types that are so wrapped up in their ideology and have no idea anymore that they're so insulated. There's no such thing as evil in people. Oh, okay, all right, yeah, I'm sure. Go spend a weekend in maximum security penitentiary and then tell me what you think, because I'd be interested to hear what that had you think about it after that. But anyway, the that's what I've noticed as a style. But either way, I'm not a big Andrew Wilson fan. But geez, he has managed to do something incredible in this whole situation, which is mainly, more than anything, in the debate itself, was to make it absolutely clear to anybody that was still open to suggestion at all, open to being moved for, oh, hey, man, you know what? It is no problem. I freaking did my little part. It wasn't much, but I'm glad to help when I could, man. Like, it sucks that we haven't done anything in a while, but still, it's, I mean, no problem. I'm glad to have helped. It was too long ago, but I'm really glad to hear that you're it's paying off. It seems like, so that's really good. I haven't seen anybody personally that I know be able to break through to that level. So congratulations, man. That's freaking awesome to hear. So no worries, and you're welcome, but no problem. Not a problem at all. And if I can do anything for you, let me know, because I have no problem with that either. But anyway, but yeah, so there was the exposure that it was obvious she had no evidence at all for what she was saying. That was the biggest takeaway. There's no evidence that she's ever really been able to. She's got a hell of a lot of conjecture. She's got a hell of a lot of theories. She's got a hell of a lot of opinions, but evidence or any kind of solid proof, no, zero, nothing. Now, Andrew and some of the other people that were analyzing this, they got this part right as well. The first 24 to 48 hours are going to be dominated by the Candace Owens, and Candace Owens owns Andrew Wilson. There we go. Side of the aisle, because her fans are going to. They're not interested in the slightest in what actually happened. They're going to flood the zone with freaking a bunch of messages, and especially one point that came up over and over again was the whole. I don't think I highlighted this spot of the debate on my show, but he was asked, like, what are the charges on Andrew Wilson? Well, typically there's almost always more than one charge, because if you're firing a firearm in public, there's always going to be a discharge of a firearm in public or something. This time it happened to be on a college campus, so it's even worse. So that's always going to be a charge that's going to be thrown in. But technically, everybody's only really going to be. I mean, in terms of severity of the charge, there's going to be one that's everybody's going to worry about. Now, here's the other point that there was a supposed gotcha, was that Andrew thought that Andrew mentioned, well, I believe it's murder, isn't it? No, aggravated murder. Oh, well, excuse the hell out of me, jeez. And so, of course, her fans, once again, they go in and flood the zone with all, he didn't even know the charges. He didn't know it was aggravated murder and not just murder. Can you even explain to me the difference between aggravated murder and murder? Because I'm interested. Can you explain to me the difference between first and second degree murder? Do you know what that is? Or I mean, like, these people, I doubt they know anything about legal precedent. They obviously had no idea what is supposed to happen in a pretrial, because I heard somebody try to describe it, and they were describing it like the most overwhelming evidence of the prosecution. No, that's not the standard. The standard is a substantial amount of evidence to prove their case, meaning the bare minimum required. It's like the opposite. Not their strongest, not the most damning, not the most overwhelming thing. That's why the prosecution didn't tip their hand in terms of some of the more damning pieces of evidence they do have. So that's why they didn't present a lot of it during the pretrial. It's so stupid. Listening to these people, you would get the complete wrong impression, so it doesn't help that they go out but that was their goal. And oh yeah, man, that was that was probably one of my proudest clips that I ever did, because it was, first of all, at the moment, was freaking hilarious, but secondly, I edited it just right. I got that part just right. Like, I cut it right at the right part. I got the three lined up ones and the slow-mo version to end it with. And it was so perfect. And I think the cherry on top was your reaction after you got hit with the bomb. Because it was like, oh, you're so disappointed. Like, oops, oh. And sorry, man, but it was just so everything lined up so perfect. It was like perfect, just like beautiful, exactly the way you'd want a perfect moment to go down. Like you want the bomb. Well, actually, you were way more enthusiastic. You want the bomb. So that was pretty much more accurate reenactment. But I can't actually, enact throwing the bomb up in the air, having it come straight. I really do wish I could have had like, what are those whistles that have the little, one of those things. If I had that sort of sound effect that I could have added in there when it went going up, go down, and that would have been the only thing I can think of now that would have been even better to add to it. But yeah, other than that, I'm pretty proud of that editing. Unfortunately, I don't know. That was a very, very, very specific moment to only a game like Brawlhalla where you could have only had that moment happen. So yeah, I don't know how many moments like that we'll get again. Although I will say that there's some other games in the in that same genre. Like what's that? Rivals of Aether 2? Man, that game's great. I'm really impressed by it. But anyway, to get back to this, after this discussions of the bomb, which have nothing to do with any court cases, just have to do with some gameplay from a while back. But yeah, the overall point was that when asked about that, Andrew said, well, it's murder. No, it's aggravated murder, and then there's this and this and this and this and this. Like, okay, first of all, how does that prove anything about about your evidence for the case? Secondly, if you're trying to state that he's unprepared, he seemed pretty prepared to ask the right questions of you, which you were completely unaware of. And one of the ones that seemed to do the most damage was the receipt thing. And I didn't know this because I don't follow any Candace's fans, luckily, because thank goodness no one I know follows Candace that diligently. But the idea that the receipt was some kind of hardcore confirmative evidence, I will do that if I can clip it. I will send it to you for sure. Because I know the video is still on my list of. There's the backlog clips that were from Transatlantic Gaming that are all in their own folder, and then there's all the new stuff that's all in the Frame Advantage sort of side of things. So, then that was most. I mean, I've privated anything for the most part that wasn't mine. Like if I didn't make it and somebody else made it and added it to the channel, then I pretty much privated it so that it wasn't going to be highlighted on the channel anymore. But yeah, I will get that clip because I know it was in the highlights of the month episode. I think it was the last one I did too. So I could just find that one and I can pull it up. But I will send it to you for sure. I'll clip it. That shouldn't be a problem. But anyway, so as far as geez, now I finally lost my place. What was it? I was surprised I kept it up that long. Where was? Oh yeah. The fans that were trying to. Geez, what was the argument? Oh man, now I forgot again. My brain's pulling tricks on me again. It was the receipt. The receipt. That was it. The receipt. So a lot of people, because she put that on her official timeline or whatever. I had no idea even that she had an official timeline. Even I don't watch her to know enough about her ridiculous freaking number 23 levels of obsession that she has going on here. But regardless, what I thought was really surprising, kind of, but not all that much, was that all the people that were convinced by the receipt and sure that Candace knew that it was Tyler Robinson's, but then found out during this discussion that, well, actually, no, she doesn't even know if that's Tyler Robinson that was the one who was sitting there. And once again, this is because Andrew pointed out there's a I'm sure it's the last 4 digits. Like most receipts come back with the last 4 digits of the card you used, and whatever the card was he used, or whoever this was that used it, um, if you checked with a credit card company or a carrier to figure out who is attached to this number, like, can you definitively link it to Tyler Robinson? And I'm almost positive that that's a big fat no, because what you have other than that, and actually, by the way, one other note on this in a second, but you have eyewitness testimony saying he was there, and that was him that ordered a steak, and like I said, they said 2 beers, as opposed to that the receipt says a Sprite, so they didn't even get that part correct. But the point is that somebody came back to the restaurant or went to the owner, or like basically talked to the same people, and got their story. But they came out and posted this because they weren't really involved. They just wanted to put in any information they could. They weren't certain. They just wanted to mention it to make it, like anybody would. If you thought this fit the description of someone who was being charged with murder, then you would want to point out any information. You're not trying to help either side. You're just telling investigators what you know about what you saw. But eyewitness testimony is one of the most unreliable forms of evidence you can present, because it's not based on anything that can be investigated aside from someone's recollection. So it's coming from memory, and that's it. Someone remembers wrong. Somebody remembers incorrect details. Somebody's description changes over time. Somebody remembers something at one recollection, and then you come back to them later, and then they definitively remember something that's totally different in certain details. Like, all of these things are bad signs that this person's memory or their recollection of events may be slightly off, or maybe they aren't that certain to begin with. They just want to mention it because maybe they think it's important. I think in this case, they were trying to do the right thing and say that, hey, we saw this person here at this time. But when it came out that, no, that couldn't have been, they were like, oh, okay, well, we just wanted to try and help. And they didn't expect some psychotic woman who's obsessed with proving the prosecution wrong because of her obsession with the organization that was involved on the victim side, the actual victim side, not the supposed guy who's on trial because he's he's falsely charged. No. It's based on the fact that this is a guy who has been positively ID'd. He admitted to his parents that, and to apparently a priest, that he had done this. He also admitted it to his boyfriend, and those text messages were made public. We've all seen that. I don't know how they can ever say that nobody's ever seen a confession when he confessed through text message to his furry boyfriend about the fact that, yes, I did it. It was me. I mean, like, kind of open and shut there, aside from the fact that, yeah, okay, we don't know for a fact that it was him. We don't know for a fact, like, I can't know for a fact that that's really what was said. But you'd have to be going way out of your way and in really bad faith. And at this point, it would have to include people who are prosecutors, people who are on Tyler's side that are trying to present a defense, that have still acknowledged that those texts are correct. Like, there's way too much they would have to be in on the fake this false confession that is going to potentially damn him to years or more's worth of strain of being under a trial, and then unless now there's a ripple in this, but still, and then potentially, face either, a death sentence or a life in prison sentence for murdering someone in cold blood. But, like, the lengths someone will go to say that, once again, you didn't see what you really saw. It's kind of like a form of really desperate gaslighting, except you pretend like it's not desperate at all. It's just obvious based on just what you say, and we're all supposed to just take that like it's, well, why would she lie? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But anyway, the fact is that, like, after all this came out, they had the narrative for a while. Andrew was someone who pointed out afterwards that this is actually a sort of case where that would be the natural progression of events for the first 24 to 48 hours. After that, the sort of more skeptical-minded people who want to break everything down and analyze it are going to be the ones who are going to take the center stage, and they are going to start presenting cases in the opposite direction, because the fact of the matter is this whole debate spotlights nothing except, I mean, and unfortunately, because she was so defiant of virtually anything, which we're going to get to the clip in question in just a second, but she was so defiant in the face of any kind of questioning whatsoever, and had basically expected that this was going to be a discussion where she didn't want to call it a debate. And I think I did play that part. It's like we're not in a debate. We're not in a debate anymore. This is a conversation about. No, we're definitely in a debate. Like it was so stupid. Like, what do you think we're doing? Like, no, I'm not here to make mild chat conversations about what was going on here, and I gave you the first half of the time to go over the points that you wanted to go over regarding like the evidence that you wanted to present surrounding Turning Point. Now I have questions that I would like to get out surrounding why you are certain that it was not Tyler Robinson, which, remember, 0%. 0%. She's positive 100%. There's nothing you could even show her that would change her mind, which is what 0% would entail. If you were to go in and say 1%, 2%, 5%, at least there's some wiggle room there to say that I could be convinced otherwise, but I'm pretty solidly convinced that no, at this point, there's nothing they have. That would be at least to some extent reasonable, but to say 0 seems to imply that anything that would take place that proves his guilt shows that it's not true, it's actually false, it's only being presented to further the goals of Turning Point and Erica Kirk, as opposed to evidence of Tyler Robinson's guilt. I don't think she really gives a shit that that's what it means, but like, when Andrew, this was the other point that was brought up by people who were defending Candace in this situation, which was that why would Andrew only be 75, 80, 85% sure? It was, well, because the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. If there's still reasonable doubt, meaning there's still an explanation you could present, which would make sense and be, now there's still the obvious one or two possible, alternative theories that do make some degree of sense, but this one by far makes the most, especially considering the fact that he's confessed to it. But once again, because he's confessed to it and it's all to people that he knows directly, there is still potential there for there to be something. But that would once again have to mean there's a lot of very nasty people in his orbit that really hate his guts and want him to be tormented all the time for something they themselves would want to do. And I don't see it being his father or his mother. I don't even see it being Lance Twiggs. As dumb as that guy seems, like, no, I don't think it's that guy. It's bizarre to have this level of pushback where the situation is so obviously false and in a totally different direction. Regardless, the point is, what is it that is going to be going on at this point? After we've seen all this sort of thrashing around. Well, Candace has, of course, done several victory laps at this point, and quietly, Andrew has been, I say quietly, it's been to his whole channel, but it hasn't been like to the same level because, by the way, one other thing real quick, I'm kind of disgusted with PBD and even some of the people at the podcast on PBD's show, because I don't know what their weird devotion is to Candace, but they somehow still think that she could be I'll tell you, she's not operating in good faith. Whatever you might think of this case, she's not operating in good faith one way or another. I don't know what it is that you can argue about for why does she has this stance, but a good faith alternative good faith alternative explanation of the series of events is not what she's presenting. That's not what she's presenting. This is about spite and scorn for Turning Point and Erica Kirk, which Andrew's definitely right about this one. She despises Erica Kirk. She can't hide her contempt for Erica Kirk. It is very, very the level of hatred there is something that is incontainable. It gets out in the tone of her voice, in the rhetoric she uses, in the look on her face, and I'm sure in person it would be even worse. You could tell based on just the small details that would come out when you only are interacting directly with somebody, and it makes a little bit of sense when you think of the overall picture. But anyway, here's the thing. The reason, let's go back to the very beginning of what I'm talking about. So sorry for that giant discussion, but this is the ultimate crux of the issue. There was about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hour long discussion that took place on live stream on, I think it was Friday. It was either Friday or Saturday, between Andrew and the hosts at Turning Point. Andrew Colvett, I can't remember the name of the other host. I think it's Blake something. But yeah, they were talking to Andrew for a good long while, and there was a lot that came out. But one thing in particular was extremely important. But I clipped out the. Now I watched this video. Like I said, it's about 2.5 hours long. I watched it about 3 times before. Now, I usually don't even put that much freaking devotion into one specific topic, because I figure if I hear something and it's strong, I'll clip it. But I wanted to make sure I got the important segments on this one prepared, so that it would be more than just the conclusion and the last point, and it would be the totality of the most important points that were talked about, I think, during the whole discussion, because there's a lot that came out here. But it concludes with a bombshell that is so important to this discussion that it kind of gives you a nice landing point to kind of understand the purpose for all this in the first place. Like, why is this even happening? Why is there such a strong pushback from people who had been friends with Charlie and had known Charlie and been aligned with Turning Point, had been behind their causes and behind their organization and all of that. But Trump's second term has been filled with a lot of weird stuff, and I say weird, like a lot of side switching, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of bullshit. I can just say, going into a second Trump term, having a sit-down interview in person where Tucker Carlson talks with Hunter Biden was not something I would have pegged as a potential likely event that comes about after Trump gets a second election. But here we are. Not only that, but how about this one? Bizarro World. I don't know. I haven't watched this debate yet, or discussion yet. I don't know what it is. But how about Nick Fuentes sitting down with Hunter Biden? I think that was what it seems crazy just saying it, but I swear I think I saw that being discussed somewhere. Not discussed somewhere. I think I saw somebody actually watching that somewhere and discussing the events that were going, like their opinion about the whole thing. But even besides the opinions about what's going on, the fact that I'm saying we had this event take place, even Tucker is a big one, but Nick Fuentes now, like what are people doing, and why? And is this all? Well, no, there's reasons behind it, but they're not good reasons. They're actually really dumb reasons. And I won't judge Nick yet, because I will say this: there's been a few things that Nick has said lately that I will say, at the bare minimum, he's kind of shown that, and this is why I freaking hate discussing Nick, because as much as I dislike the guy and as much as I disagree with the guy on almost everything he says, there's still moments where he comes out and he still says something, and it's at the moments, like it was like the moment with Charlie Kirk getting shot. Like he was one of the most staunch people coming out, somebody that was in a lifelong feud with Charlie Kirk, put up a better post for why this was horrible and disgusting, more than people who are his quote unquote friends did. Like his biggest freaking his biggest like political enemy, or even ideological enemy, in real life is putting out a post damning the shooting, damning the shooter, and damning the culture that cultivated this kind of sentiment, that it was warranted to be able to murder the person who you believed was ideologically so wrong based on your personal political perspective. That culture is sick, and it's in a state of deep emergency. Like it needs some serious changes, and that's very true. But Nick's the only one that's pointing out that, like, everybody was shocked and everybody was upset, and well, not everybody, and that's another thing. But we're not going to be able to get to that today. By the way, I will be talking about that as my next possible opportunity. Unfortunately, though, that's not going to be today. I didn't even have time to clip it, so I'm not going to be able to talk about that. But I will just mention, I mean, for Hassan to pull out the Chairman Mao outfit again, just for the special occasion to try to make some big joke out of Charlie Kirk getting murdered, well, you know, it goes once again just to the disgusting nature of the DSA in particular, but the whole Democrat Party in the first place, that is the culture that fostered this ridiculous oppressor-oppressed mindset in everybody in the first place. And yeah, that's mainly the biggest culprit. It's not Israel, and it's not the Jews, and it's not it's not anything like that. It's the climate that's been created by a group of people who have pushed for a very long time that the political is personal. And why do you think so many families get devastated around the holidays? Because someone is upset about how their father voted for Trump, so they're not going to show up for Thanksgiving dinner this year. That's the mentality we're talking about here. People that are that willing to go that far for some ridiculous political stand that they think is based on a threat to their identity. That's the big fucking ridiculous talking point that comes from that side of the aisle. And it's just it's so desperate, it's almost funny. But then when you talk about how, well, it is funny sometimes, but then when you talk about the aspects that are kind of gross, like what happens to families that have someone like this that is so bought in that they can't even take the time to visit their family on holidays anymore. That's a level of disgusting where we're talking about that. That's why when you call the left a cult, it's very accurate. It is very accurate. It unfortunately, to anyone who's on the left, if you're a typical old school Democrat, like, I wouldn't say that Bill Maher is someone who is in a cult, but he certainly doesn't seem to have the same degree of belief that he's starting to show signs that he's starting to understand this. But when you're somebody who excuses or doesn't properly call out the mob for mindlessly deciding that, no, we decide who the victims are and who the oppressed are and who the oppressors are, and if you are an oppressor, then you get no mercy from, like, we're going to get to this, I hope, today, but if not, I have to save it, because you can think about Antifa once again, an organization who is openly violent towards people who are conservative. It doesn't matter what their beliefs are. They don't stop and bother to ask them about anything. They just, I mean, it was represented perfectly in the video of the guy shouting, "This guy's a conservative!" Bang, shoots him in the head. That's it. I mean, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the level of absolute. It's a lot like the Henry Novak case in Britain, where you have cops too afraid of being called racist to even acknowledge the fact that the quote that sticks with me again. Everybody talks about the quote that is so memorable. I remember this one even more. I've been stabbed. Yeah, he keeps saying that. I don't know why. You don't know why. Now, I don't even remember for sure. It may have been the guy who stabbed him who said that in the first place. It might have been his brother actually that said that. But I thought it was a cop at first. I was sitting there thinking originally, like, you don't know why? Well, maybe you should ask him then if you're so concerned, jackass. Like, maybe ask, why do you keep saying that? Where? Show us. And then when he goes to show you and he passes out from blood loss, then, maybe you have your answer. But the point is that the dismissal right away, like, I don't think you are, mate. That's the one that everybody remembers so well. But like I said, like, he keeps saying that. I don't know why. He keeps saying I've been stabbed. That doesn't set any alarm bells off, though, huh? You too worried about the racist comment that may have been made to acknowledge the fact that he could have been stabbed because he keeps saying, I've been stabbed. I don't know why he keeps saying that. Because he's fucking been stabbed. Jesus Christ. Anyway, but back to the main subject of what we're talking about. So let me get to this video because this is the crux of the issue. Now, the reason that this video is coming out so late and I'm doing it right now is because I knew all weekend after I had found this discussion that at any point when this comes out, this is going to be a real freaking. This is going to be a bombshell that people are going to be very, very interested in seeing. And oh, hang on a second. Let me make sure that this is not. Volume's not on here, is it? No, it's not. It's not on YouTube. I know it's not on YouTube, so okay, good. And I was just kind of bracing for the moment when all the videos were going to come out talking about this. And then none did, and I was like, shit, well, I still got a little time left. Okay, all right, let me get the video together, I'll be good. Now, yesterday, like I said, I was prepared to do this, but it got so late, and I was getting so freaking drowsy that I was like, if I go on tonight, I'm going to pass out and fall asleep. Now, interestingly, I woke up and fell back to sleep, woke up and fell back to sleep. At one point when I woke up, I happened to catch Andrew Wilson talking about an interview he did with Turning Point. I was like, oh no, he put it up again in a condensed clip, didn't he? And that's exactly what he did. He put out the point that I was about to talk about in my show. Now, it's Andrew's discussion. He already put it out. I'm not saying, oh no, damn it, Andrew, he beat me to the punch. Of course he did. It is about his show. What I was worried about was that, now there's a condensed version of it that talks about just that specific point. And I was really going to highlight a lot of important segments of this interview that really say a lot as well, but end with this kind of finale that is the big bombshell point. And like I said, I thought all weekend it was coming. It didn't come. I was like, sweet, because all weekend I was trying, and it was just, I got all the video together, then I was getting too busy. Like, a bunch of stuff came up. It was just a nightmare weekend. Nothing worked out, so okay. All right, we'll do it Monday. Monday comes around. No, now I can't do it because I'm falling asleep. Okay, well, then we're running out. This is getting really ridiculous, but we'll try it again. And then I wake up, I was like, oh, man, okay. If you don't put it out by today, then, it's going to be, there's going to be 12 videos of this, and nobody's going to be able to delineate anything that you're saying from anything anybody else is speculating about this or whatever. It's like, and yeah, the person who's first on a lot of discussion is usually the one who's going to be kind of a focal point, but it's not about that. It's about an hour, like a 2.5 hour long video that comes out, and yeah, my shows are really long, so I mean, it's going to be a long discussion. Not everything, though, is going to be difficult to figure out, and more importantly, The more videos highlighting this, the better. I just was like, by instinct, naturally like, okay, this needs to come out. This needs to be out everywhere, and it needs to be put out in a way that's like that everybody knows ahead of time. This is a big deal. Like this says it all basically. Andrew himself in this video says that I don't think you guys know the bombshell you just put out, and it's true. It seems like they really don't even recognize that. Oh my God, this is insanity. This is massive. So, in that spirit, let's get to this clip finally because it's been long enough. I've been introducing it long enough. And like I said, I don't think there's any wiggle room at all after this. Once again, to go back to Candace's side of the argument and her self-assured nature surrounding this event, I don't think, after hearing what's come out about the interactions with Turning Point, like directly after Charlie Kirk's murder, assassination, whatever you want to call it, I guess it's most appropriate to call it assassination, but after he was killed, this is less than a month after he was killed that these discussions are happening between Candace and Charlie Kirk's organization and his wife and his friends and people he worked, his coworkers and people he employed, and the whole, you're talking about a personal level here of that is basically his entire life. Everyone that he spent his life with for the vast majority of the time is all here. And that's who you've decided to demonize. And even when a suspect who seems to kind of fit the profile and is coming out based on evidence to seem like is the actual one who took the shot. Now, there is a point of contention, which is that is it possible that he didn't act alone? I've never dismissed that possibility either, and it seems like Andrew doesn't dismiss it. It seems like no one associated with this crime seems to dismiss it. There is a possibility that he worked with someone else to do this. As a matter of fact, if you want to see a list of suspects, pull up Blue Sky. I guarantee you'll see a list of suspects just about immediately. That is a cesspool of the most despicable leftist human beings in America or wherever that I've ever seen. And it's just open contempt in the most vile, vicious way that you can imagine openly. Like, it really is just open hostility, and I don't know how it's not, it doesn't meet a threat threshold just with what they put up on that site alone. I mean, it's insane. It's a very, very disgusting place that I haven't seen anything really, any forum specifically around political topics that is that gross. I'm sure they would say something like, well, yeah, the right wing. So, like, name the right wing equivalent. It's not X. Don't give me that bullshit. It's not X. So tell me what the right wing equivalent is for Blue Sky. The site where a bunch of right wingers are out there talking about how much they want to kill this or this person or that person. That's what you're trying to say. I haven't seen that. And if there is one, I mean, I guarantee you it's like some deep website that you have to get to through some freaking layers and layers of protection, because nobody would be able to just jump on that and post something and be, okay, on with my day. I mean, it's like, for some reason, people still have this strange belief, even after Charlie Kirk got murdered, like, for some reason, people have this strange belief that the right wing is behind so much more political violence in this country. Okay, yeah, okay, name all the right wing events of violence. January 6th, Ashley Babbitt and another Trump supporter got killed. Okay. That's the event where two right wingers got killed is the big right wing violent event. Of course, if you listen, we're going to get to this today. If you listen to someone like Brian Shapiro, who is a very strong believer in this, they beat police with their own batons. Okay. Some of them committed suicide. Okay. How is that? What does that have to do with anything? Could it possibly be something like I don't know, based on Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund's description of events, and not based on these ridiculous theories about how Trump was this mastermind of an insurrection, and it's like, I don't know, it just seems ridiculous. It is ridiculous, but Brian Shapiro is obviously somebody who is a very staunch believer in this idea. So anyway, is this it? No, is this it? No. Oh, here we go. I think this is it. No. God damn it. Okay, hold on. Man, I can't find anything. Ah, here we go. Here we go. Okay, finally found it. All right, so, all right, finally got it. So, sorry for the wait, but here we go. Here's where this revelation was dropped on this episode. And like I said, how long is this clip? Anyway, let me see. 8.5 minutes. Okay, so this is a little bit, but not too bad. So I'm gonna try not to interject too much and just let this speak for itself. But if there's something really important that comes out, I'll probably interject, like the main points. So I'll probably pop in and say a little bit, but I'm gonna try to let this go as much as possible without interjecting with needless junk. So without further ado, here we go. Here's the meeting between between Turning Point USA and Andrew Wilson in their discussion. So here we go. Let's go with this. Oh, it might be. Oh no, never mind. Oh shit, there's no volume. Sorry guys. Hold on a second. All right. There we go. All right.
She said, I never said Erica Kirk was complicit.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. You put those words in Charlie's murder. You put those words in my mouth. I didn't do that. And
Did you consider asking her to define the word complicit?
I did actually.
Yeah.
You know, if you watch what I said to her specifically was, what did you mean when you said complicit then? What does that actually mean? And what she said is, that means that you believe Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk. And I said, wait, that's it? All you mean by complicit is that Erica believes that? Yes. And then I went a step further again and said, so are you just saying that she doesn't believe that? And then Candace says, yeah, I absolutely don't believe Erica Kirk believes that.
What is that?
Wow.
What is that?
That's an earpiece.
Was that legal?
It's not like I'm out there saying
Now,
You see
I
how
have
he's
to-
touching his earpiece?
Yeah.
Was he wearing an earpiece? 100%.
He was.
Wait a minute. 100%.
What do you mean he was wearing an
Candace
earpiece?
have it too? Are you ready?
Okay, go.
That's Candace's earpiece.
What does that mean?
They gave that earpiece to all of us.
So they had it too.
No, but wait a minute. Watch what just happened.
Yeah.
The market believes he had an earpiece of things being fed to us. That was an earpiece that Candace's producers gave Candace, gave him.
They hear everything.
gave
You guys
me.
behind the scenes.
So
What really is interesting about this is that, yeah, a lot of people react that way because there was just that one point being put out. That there's actually 2 points, but that are important about this. But let me get to this one first. You notice Vinny is so quick to be. I've noticed this lately, especially because of the when it comes to Epstein stuff. It's the worst. He's so quick to immediately jump on something without even thinking. In this case, he's not partial to Andrew's side. I would honestly say he's a little bit more partial to Candace's side, and that's surprising. Except for, I do remember, oh yeah, that's right, Vinny is for some reason convinced about all kinds of weird shit that makes no sense. But I like the guy, but man, like, how about you hold off for a second, wait, think, don't blow up. She was sitting 5 feet away from the guy. I think if he was wearing an earpiece and was doing something like this a bunch of times, Candace would have been the first person in the world to be like, what are you doing with your ear? What is that thing? Like, you guys really are going to infantilize Candace Owens to that freaking level that she wouldn't stand up and say, hey, you're cheating, you're wearing an earpiece, you're not supposed to be wearing. It's like, give me a fucking break. Come on now. Think about this for a second. Don't just jump to this ridiculous conclusion immediately. Secondly, do you ever stop and think when Patrick says that, instead of going, oh, okay, that maybe there's a little bit of a kind of theory that should pop up in your head about something like, well, I don't know, maybe there's something that can be done where the whole reason for this earpiece thing, which is what it seems like to me, because if you ask, by the way, Gerald from Louder with Crowder, he was one of the fact checkers that was on Andrew's team. All right, Candace was very pleasant to Gerald when he came. She offered him a biscuit or something. It was very pleasant. When she talks afterwards, she's like, "Of course, it was one of the members of Steven Crowder's team." She just completely throws him under the bus, and acting like she didn't know this was happening. She had no idea someone affiliated with Steven Crowder was coming to this thing, and that it was going to be like, there was nothing but, from what I heard, cordiality between the two. And but from what Gerald has to say, it's not that point, but it is when they got into the actual debate setting and everything was getting ready to be done. There were suddenly all these freaking weird stipulations and what you could do, what you couldn't do, and these people weren't. Oh no, you can't do. Oh, we need this. No, we're not going to do that. Blah blah blah. Like, it got so confusing, and everything was moving along so fast. It was just like, it was a dumpster fire for the freaking people that were trying to do their best to freaking pull up relevant information. Meanwhile, on Candace's side, information that was just specific for things that she needed to know. Which, by the way, if there was going to be a question about the charges, and she needed to know what all the charges were, you think her side couldn't have fed it to her, like, right as they needed to be? And that's brought up in this discussion, but, or I think it's brought up in the subsequent video, but we're going to get to that in a second. But anyway, here's the rest of it. I just think everybody's got a hair trigger suspicion on Andrew in this situation, and maybe it's because she's a pregnant woman. That would make sense, but somehow I don't think it's it. I think it has to do with the kind of audience she's cultivated over this time period and how sycophantic they are towards this belief and this ridiculous theory that they think is so freaking plausible that it's mind-blowing. But anyway, here we go.
Is she going to say that on air?
She would easily. I don't think she would have a problem.
Yeah.
I think she will. I don't think she has a problem with that. But that is their earpiece.
So what's the story with the earpiece? Because I asked my tech team, I said, could you, if I had you in studio with me, could I route it in such a way that I feed different sources to different people? We don't have it routed that way, but you could. And they said yes.
Of course you can.
Yeah, you can.
The thing is, though, is like, I can't make that claim because I don't know if it's true or not true.
Of course not.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I
if it
can,
was
though.
true. I didn't
I'll
like
claim
the
it.
idea of having.
I guarantee you that was
in.
true.
What we were told was you have to have them in so that you know the cue for we're going to bring up this evidence or we're going to do this or we're going to go to an ad break. That's why you need to have it in. But it wouldn't surprise me if she was being fed through her earpiece at all. So, but I can't say that for certainty. You know.
All right, Blake. Andrew has questions for us too. Just so the audience knows, we are going to stream. If this takes longer to get through the whole interview back and forth, like, we'll just go longer.
We're going long. We're going live.
Yeah, we're live. I've asked a bunch of questions. I want to make sure you have a chance to ask any questions that you have about the debate.
I guess I've speculated, and like, this might be the only time she ever agrees to any debate.
Oh,
like
it will
this.
be. It will be.
Well, it's unprecedented.
could-
Just so you know,
Yeah.
like nothing like this has ever happened on the internet before, as far as I'm aware. The entire thing was unprecedented. The fact that I had to pay for access just to ask basic questions in a way that she couldn't evade, that's probably never going to happen again. But the question becomes, like, what happened in that period? Did you have communication with her? Were you talking to her? Were you concerned about her safety? This type of thing. What was what was the interim there that caused her to move into, we have to destroy TPUSA? Like, what actually happened there?
Well, man, you're tempting me to share something I haven't shared before. But so I immediately was in touch with Candace. Again, reminding you in the audience, I was one of the people tasked with sort of, being her point of contact with the org for a number of years. And when everything happened initially, you're sort of, it feels like the whole slate is wiped clean. You have new beginnings. This terrible thing has just happened, and you're reaching out to people and talking to people. They're reaching out to you. And it's just an overwhelming sense of like, we're all living through this tragedy together. Bygones be bygones. Water under the bridge. Okay, it's been tense. We've had our differences. But we just lost Charlie. And, I think you're operating under a place of hope that, we're all in this together. And so I was very happy in the immediate aftermath to communicate with Candace and share what I knew and share what facts were coming in. And I was really worried about her safety, especially that day of. There was rumors floating around that I was later told were disinformation, that they were maybe targeting her and Tucker and maybe even Megyn Kelly. And apparently that just turned out to be misinformation, presumably maybe Russian. I don't know. But people were picking stuff up, sending it to me. I wanted to make sure she was aware of those potential threats. And then we just kept talking. And, what I think I think that we stopped communication in October because it just became extraordinarily clear that this was heading in a terrible direction and she was no longer operating in good faith. But I remember one conversation, it was probably like 5 or 6 days after, and I remember I had flown to D.C.
Okay, so here we go. Pay attention on this one. This one is real. This is it. This is the key point here that's really interesting to kind of get a behind-the-scenes look at. Because, man, oh man. Now, you heard up until this point, Candace actually has got a good relationship with the people at Turning Point still. It's got to be like in a whirlwind of all these crazy things that are going on. They just lost the founder and the most important player in the entire organization, the face of the organization, and they're going to have to shift away. Now, it's obviously a very difficult time for them, and it's going to be a difficult time for anybody that cared about Charlie, friends with Charlie, had any kind of relationship with him, or even was just employed by him. It's probably going to be a pretty tough time. Like I said, it was a tough time for anybody that was even a fan of his show. What would be on the top of mind for somebody who had just seen that happen and is wondering about his organization, what's going to happen to it? Well, just think about that, and here we go into this question. So, or into this segment, and remember that question. So, what would be on top of mind? What would you have on top of mind?
We had J.D. Vance hosted Charlie's show on that Monday after. So Charlie was killed on a Wednesday, and then J.D. hosted the show on the Monday. So I remember I flew back, landed in the airport, and I believe I was talking to Candace, and she said something that I've not publicly communicated yet, but basically it was that if the wrong people take over the organization, and she said this, I'll never forget it. She says, "I will burn down that organization. I swear to God."
And you mean Turning Point?
Turning Point.
The look on it, yeah.
And I just assumed because she.
Now, this is what I mean. That look is exactly what happened when I first heard this. I was like, "What? Oh my God!" And they're just stating it like kind of going through events. Now, I know they live this, they get it, they've talked amongst themselves about it over and over again, I'm sure. So it's not like it's news to them. But I think that maybe they should have looked at their monitor if they had him up, or maybe they should have kind of given a second to let that settle before kind of just going on, because Andrew is going to have to interject to make sure that they realize the gravity of what it is that they just said. Like, could this somehow be a little bit of the motivation behind why this woman is such a fucking lunatic? Because she was so desperate to try and be in control of Turning Point, and have some say in who is going to take over at the bare minimum. That if she wasn't happy with it, she would burn it to the ground. And what do you call trying to smear his widow for almost a fucking year straight, and basically get the guy who murdered him off the hook, and put as much doubt into the minds of as many people as possible that he was responsible? What could be more of an event that would be symbolized as burning the organization down as doing all of that work? And you're going to devote your entire show, all of your airtime, all of your contacts, all of your energy, and all of your freaking, all your rational, critical thinking to this subject, with the presumption that they don't care about Charlie Kirk or his legacy, or just that I'm the one who's most qualified. Doesn't that seem a little too convenient, or a little too on the nose for everything that's happened afterwards to be just a colloquial sort of term to throw out there for no reason? Andrew sure as hell thinks so.
He was very obviously
There were
anti-Jewish.
rumors at this time. Like it was
This is
chatter
5
online.
days, 6 days after, whatever it was. She said, "I'm going to burn down that organization. I swear to God." And I just thought she meant if the Jews take over, or something
Ben
like
Shapiro.
this.
Let's just say the name.
Ben
People were
Shapiro,
throwing
yeah.
out because Ben Shapiro had appeared on the show.
And
Some
he-
people ran with
The
like
Jews,
Ben
of
Shapiro
course.
is now taken
It's
over.
the
to-
Jews.
Like,
I don't know if he had appeared on that. I think he was actually going to show up the next day on the Tuesday, because it went JD, the Daily Wire guys, Glenn Beck, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, that first week.
I don't think that
So-
you even know what you just said there and how much of a bombshell that is. Can you repeat that again? Did you just say
Yeah.
that Candace Owens told you that if the wrong people take over TPUSA, she's going to burn it to the ground?
Yeah, like 5 or 6 days after Charlie was killed.
And then what did you say?
And I
and how she
said, I
replied?
told her, because I knew that Charlie had told me multiple times. And
This is
multiple,
also
I'll say
important
2,
right here.
Maybe
This
3
is really
times I'd
important.
heard it. Then I was at Aspen when he
And
repeated
I've
it.
said it was a miasma. This would come up in conversation, and everyone would say.
We all just knew if something happened to Charlie that Erica would take over, but we didn't think that hard about it because we just kind of assumed Charlie was going to be with us for the next 56 years. But at that point, I told her before it was public information, Erica, I think, is going to take over. And, she's very conservative. She's Christian. This is what Charlie wanted. The board
Yeah, she
was
doesn't
informed
care.
about this when Charlie was alive. Like, this is what's going to happen. Like, you don't have to go there. I remember because, like, a chill went down my spine. And I said, well, don't say that, Candace. Like, Erica's going to take over. And you kind of heard her react like, oh, okay. Okay. Like, it kind of
it
caught her
takes
off
on
guard.
it takes on a different meaning over time. I
Absolutely,
think,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
In
And
the
it's something
moment,
She's going
you
to
felt,
burn
oh,
it
it means she's
to the ground.
reassured.
she's going to burn it to the ground.
I'm going to try to keep the speculation to a minimum, as people are often always speculating about other people's motivations. They often get that incorrect. I'm not sure exactly what the
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, what the motivations are, but I can tell
I
you
don't know.
that there's a
I don't.
huge like what you just said there is incredible. If she said that early on, that if people took over that she didn't like, she was going to burn it to the ground. That's an incredible statement.
Now, luckily, before I was going to do the show, there was one more event that was just a live stream with just Andrew Wilson, where he was talking about this, talking about the debate, and kind of summarizing everything up until this point, which this is a great companion video to that one. And it wouldn't be the whole story if I didn't include this part. So, I thought that was a bombshell when I first heard that, and it is. But hearing it with the rest of this upcoming context, this is really where everything kind of comes into a pretty solid, you can get a pretty good image in your head at this point after this one, what is going on here. And like I said, I speculated after the last video or during the last video, that I thought this was all about narcissism. I thought this was all about Candace and her tendency to very much make everything about her all the time, and very, very, very self-centered and self-righteous sort of personality. And interestingly enough, that kind of is what Andrew's taken away too. It's not money. It's not, like I said before, it's not anything else, but it's just this sort of insanely narcissistic personality and a desire to be in control of everything, which is why someone would be so absolutely obsessed with the idea of being in control of this organization, even though you didn't found it, you were associated with it, but you know, and you somehow think that you should be in charge of deciding management after its founder is killed. Like, and anyway, so here we go. Let me. There's a lot more in that interview, so I really highly suggest checking it out. I didn't even clip, you know, the point that I thought it was kind of not as relevant, but there's a lot about the direct relationship with Candace and the other members of Turning Point, from all the way from Charlie to Andrew and Blake to the, you know, just regular members of the crew on any given occasion, and how she treated everybody, and how they felt dealing with her, how much that was, you know, what kind of an environment that was. So anyway, there's a lot that comes out there as well, but I didn't want to like just include that because it seemed kind of smeary. So I didn't. Just wanted to stick with the points that were really the most relevant, actual information that was direct and from the direct organization that is trying to still act in the good faith interpretation and legacy of what Charlie Kirk wanted the organization to be doing. So, but anyway, here's this follow-up video. Andrew discussing these events. Or actually, hold on. There's two, and I want to make sure I get this right, because there's one where he goes over some of the points in the debate, and the point where he knows that Candace lost the debate. There's that point. But then there's also one other one, which was, make sure that I've got it here on the, okay, hold on. I might have to open up what was... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, I hope it didn't get put in a different folder. I remember at one point they were getting moved to the wrong folders. You know what? I'm going to just to make sure I get the right video, I want to make sure... I'm going to have to open up Vegas and actually open up my recent videos, because... I don't know what I named it, and it might have been putting it in the wrong folder, so I'm going to have to... Oh, whoops. Make sure I get this right, because I've been editing a lot of videos lately, and freaking... okay. Sorry, I don't mean to waste any time, but I just don't want this to be... I don't want to pull up the wrong clip and realize halfway through and then switch it. And so, come on. Load, you freaking slow bastard. There we go. Okay. All right, let's go to... oh, now it's going to open the second one. Of course. Okay, close. Get out of the way. Well, here, let me see. I might have to do it a different way. Oh, that's weird. Why did it go to my documents to bring up? Re-download, maybe? Oh no! Don't tell me I didn't get the cut. I know I got the cut on that one. When was this? Oh, this was Jeez Louise. Oh, that's the one. Okay, that's the one where that message came in about, like he said, what title of that video was "The Moment Kansas Lost the Debate," but because that's what Andrew describes in that point. But let me see if there's any other. Oh wait, hold on. No, that's not it. Well, you know what? Here's what I'll do. I'll put this one on. I think this is the only one I can find, and I think this is it. But if it's not, while it's playing, I will try and dig around to see if I saved anything else, and if I did, I will pull it up. If I didn't, and this is it, then it should be pretty obvious as it goes along. So here, let me pull this one up. Like I said, this is specifically around how. But there's a lot more than just that as the point of the video. So, in fact, there was one other one here. It's, how long is this one? It's a couple minutes long. I can't remember who this one comes from. But this was I think this came from a different source because this was sort of like, actually, you know what? Maybe I'm going to put this one on first because this is a good point. Andrew asserts that this is really about Candace's narcissism. I said from the beginning that I thought this was about Candace being a complete narcissist, and this sort of video clip sort of to demonstrate the, I guess, sort of the visual aid for our point that that was what we each believe as individuals. I've never talked to Andrew, obviously, but this is what I can see and the points that come to mind when I think of Candace being so narcissistic to believe. And one point in particular, in this video, it's highlighted very, very specifically. But yeah, let's put this on and then I'll get to the last one. So here.
You know what my gut has told me about the situation from the moment that it took place? I know what beyond my gut and beyond my dreams, the statement from Andrew Colbert, it was supposed to be you. Was it? Was it? Is it fair to ask if it's plausible that when Charlie was taken to the Hamptons, the phone call no one wants to address from Bibi Netanyahu, is it fair to ask the question if it was literally supposed to be me who was supposed to be back on tour with Charlie?
No, I don't think that was what was supposed to happen.
Did he say no to killing Candace Owens?
Oh.
What?
That's right. I remember. This is Brad Palumbo's video.
And then did he become a liability because he said no? What did Charlie turn down from Bibi Netanyahu while Erica was there? Again, the people that were present don't even want to acknowledge the phone call. I only got an acknowledgement that it happened from Erica in person, who then said, oh, he was just following up on a letter that Charlie wrote in May. Really?
Oh, I did talk about this before.
Bill Ackman's actually put Bibi Netanyahu on the phone. And he's just like, hey, I got your letter. I want to talk about it.
Well, he does speak to the president, like I've said before.
Months ago. This feels like a good time.
I think speaking
I don't buy it, guys.
Yeah, because you're a narcissist.
This is darker than we could ever imagine. A seemingly infinite number of influencers on social media who watched the Tyler Robinson preliminary hearing last week, and they reported back to us common folk that they came away from it and they were effectively drowning. They were submerged. They were engulfed. They were completely buried by the avalanche of undeniable evidence that Tyler Robinson murdered Charlie Kirk. I mean, they were so consumed that they all just began using that exact same adjective to express themselves. It is overwhelming. In fact, that has really been the key word since last year, right? Mm-hmm. It is the new wear a mask, save lives, 6 feet social distancing. The evidence against Tyler Robinson is overwhelming. Check out this little collage we put together of influencers who apparently...
Influencers. I'm not going to play the influencers, I remember, but overwhelming, like I said last time I put that clip up, is specifically a word used in every single crime drama, every courtroom movie, every movie about any TV show or anything like that, any piece of entertainment where there is a judge, a jury, and a trial that is at the center of it. They've used the word overwhelming almost in every single one of them when it was an uphill case, when it was an extremely uphill case that they're going to have to be able to prove to win their case. Overwhelming was the term given to the evidence that was going to have to be substantially disproven or overcome by the opposition to be able to prove that their case is correct. It's not out of the ordinary. That's been the sort of general, commonly used term for decades now. Literally, since My Cousin Vinny, overwhelming has been used over and over and over again in just about every one of those. I don't know why in this one specific instance it's so nefarious. It doesn't make any sense but I guess I kind of do, because she's looking for any and all possible ways to suggest that it's a conspiracy by way of many people who are using the same talking points, but by using a word that everybody has used over and over again in the same context, and it's a sort of culturally relatively accepted term for evidence being extremely strong and extremely difficult to overcome if you're trying to disprove the case. Overwhelming has been used like since I can remember. I don't know any. That's a horrible example to use if you're trying to prove that there's something out of the ordinary here. In fact, that's the opposite. That's the ordinary term. If they're all using something else, maybe it would be very strong evidence to say that everyone is talking to each other and coming up with some other way to describe it. But overwhelming, really, that's the term that you're saying is suspicious. People are using it like, yeah, you may have a different set of words you've just come up with out of the top of your head, which is why she uses them at the beginning. But no, that's not. There's nothing suspicious about that. That's what, like I said, that's what I've always heard for cases where it's a mountain of evidence that is going to have to be overcome, and good evidence, not speculative, not hearsay, not circumstantial, not like actually, maybe some of it is circumstantial, maybe some of it isn't, but once again, evidence is evidence, and it has to be viewed upon for the totality and not for the individual pieces. So if every piece is kind of weak, and it's still going to be a kind of meh case. If there's pieces that are really strong and some pieces that are kind of strong, it's more likely going to be viewed as a pretty damn strong case because everything there is pretty good. And in this case, where they have enough to get them to trial without even presenting their strongest evidence, yeah, it's a damn good case. It's a damn good case because, like I said at the beginning, when they were trying to describe the way that a pretrial works, describing it as they have to present their most damning evidence in that case. No, that's not true. That's not what they have to do. They have to present enough evidence to be beyond the threshold of reasonable doubt to be able to get it to trial to make sure. These are silly kinds of things that a lot of people have argued. Why are they even going through the motions? But it's the law of Utah. Utah is not going to change their law for this case. It's understandable. So they're going to have to go through the motions of a pretrial to prove that the prosecution has enough evidence to so that they don't waste their time on someone that doesn't have enough substantial evidence to warrant a full trial. And in this case, they met that threshold, and that's what they're going to do. It didn't have to be their best evidence. It had to be enough to satisfy the court that this is a case worth trying in a full trial. That's what they did. There's no rule about how it has to be. I mean, how would you even prove what the strongest is before it's been put before a jury in the first place? That makes no sense. So, yeah, they can speculate and say what they think their strongest is and put it up, but that's not what the point is. They put up the amount necessary to get it to trial, and I think, judging from the amount that they have, yeah, that was pretty modest compared to what their strongest evidence has been, and at least seems to be. But regardless. I haven't found anything else. So I'm gonna just hope that I'm right on this one and say this is the clip that I was going to include as well. So let's jump to this one, because if not, I don't want to have to do another one on this. I really don't. So I'm getting really finished with this shit. But here we go. Let's go with this last one, and then we'll kind of we'll put a bow on this thing and call it good. So.
Candace said 0% chance Tyler did it, then moments later admitted the possibility of coming back after the trial to say Tyler did do it. It makes no sense. So I'll show you the exact point in the debate when I won. This is when I knew I won. I'll show it to you in a second. She didn't properly name the second charge. Nope, she didn't. But it's okay. You got to give them their one, because that's all they got. I wish you would have held Candace Owens to prove Tyler Robinson was a patsy.
This is
had
important.
her on that one. Actually, I'm going to prove to you that I did hold her to that, and that's where she conceded the entirety of the debate. You don't believe me? Watch for yourself. I will show you. Watch Candace Owens concede the entirety of the debate right here.
Exactly what this preliminary was in the inverse.
That's not in dispute. What's in dispute is when you said, I'm using this as evidence that he could have been a patsy. I'm asking, how do you get the inference to patsy from that?
Because what I am saying is that it shows that somebody else had more DNA presence on that than Tyler Robinson did. So it is plausible, which is all they're doing. They're presenting plausibility based off of the facts, okay? It is plausible that somebody just took his and put it there.
Plausible that somebody took his and put it there, okay?
That's it.
Is there equally
that's how it works.
And is there equally 100 other plausible explanations?
And is there equally, plausibly, 100 other explanations? What's the answer? So after I ask her this, is there 100 other plausible explanations? What does she say?
I think that's the reason why most people are exploring when things don't make sense.
Got it.
So yes, at the beginning of that, this is how the court process works.
So
just so we're clear,
if there's 100 other plausible explanations,
if there's 100 other plausible explanations,
then Candace, why is it that we should go with this idea that it was a patsy?
Why is it we should go with this idea it was a patsy?
Here's my interjection on this one.
I'm not saying that we should go with the idea that it was a patsy. I am saying,
that's my own little flavor I decided to add.
That was the end of the debate. I don't even understand what's even controversial there.
There's another one, too.
What is even controversial? That was it. Debate over. Andrew wins in 4K. If there is 100 other plausible explanations, Candace, why is it we should go with the idea that it was a patsy? Answer?
I'm not saying that we should go with the idea that it was a patsy.
You are stupid.
Well, that takes care of that, doesn't it? If there's 100 other plausible explanations,
I apologize.
Then there's not overwhelming evidence of thing, is there? Now, just so you understand,
that's obvious.
You might wonder why the debate went the way it did. Why weren't you more aggressive, Andrew? Why weren't you more aggressive?
Here is an important point. Very important point.
This chick, when you push back hard, she shuts down. She just shuts down. She'll be like, I'm just not even talking anymore. I'm just not even going to talk to you. So I adjusted tactics properly, especially for optics, considering how many mainstream media people would be watching this debate. So many people were tuned into this debate. Optics mattered. The last thing you wanted to do was come off looking like some kind of bully trying to bully a small pregnant woman in her house. The tactics were, first you had to get her to talk. Now, when she sat down in the chair, the first thing that she said,
this is interesting,
or at least one of the first things that she said, is, only 3.5 hours, you can do this, Candace. Talking to herself in the third person. Only 3.5 hours. You can do this, Candace. So I knew right then and there I was only going to get 3.5 hours, period. I only had that much time to do that job because that's all I was going to get. That's why in the first half, which is her half, I said, okay, I'm on defense. If you guys were wondering why it is I shifted so hard in the middle of that debate, it's because I knew I only had an hour and a half. And that chick would have eaten up all of that time questioning her.
Mm-hmm.
She would have eaten all of that time questioning her if I had let her. That's why in the middle of it, I was like, now it's my turn. It's my hour and a half. Because otherwise I wouldn't have gotten it.
So that's, and that was basically what, just supporting the discussion of what was going on in this whole, during this whole discussion. But, and you know, there's heaps of more stuff. I really do recommend, I'm sure, you know, most out there are pretty familiar with Andrew Wilson's work and his channel. Even if you don't like his sort of general debate style and tactics of how he normally conducts these types of things, this is just one of those situations where, unfortunately, you know, it's clear at this point that there's never going to be naturally, by everyone's own personal capabilities of being able to put aside differences and reach some kind of conclusion that is satisfactory to everybody. There's never going to be any situation that's going to come up that's going to satisfy everyone, especially if, just being honest, because Candace is not going to drop this. And yeah, a great deal of it might be because it is too lucrative and her channel is getting too much. But I don't think that's the primary reason. Once again, I think it's just that at this point, I think it's more than anything, she's got so many people out there. And what really is probably the most surprising part for me is to kind of bring this whole thing into perspective. Anytime and every time Andrew has put out an open challenge to anybody who wants to debate the idea that Tyler Robinson isn't guilty of killing Charlie Kirk, or that there is they've got the same perspective as Candace Owens, that this is a narrative that's been pushed by the government and the FBI to set up Tyler Robinson as a patsy to help the real culprit get away, and it's been organized by Erica Kirk and Turning Point USA, so that they could take control of the organization. Like, I mean, first of all, you have to get to the point of, and this is probably one of the worst parts of the whole thing, you have to accept the premise, which I've seen nothing yet to even get me to even entertain for more than a few seconds, even that Erica Kirk was so despised Charlie so much that she would have been ready to resort to murder to not only get him out of the way, but to take over his organization and to take all the money for herself. Like, what evidence? You think that the amount of money and their lifestyle and their ability to provide for their children and anything like that, you think she was unhappy with any of that? Is there any evidence of that? No. Is there any evidence that she is a natural leader or wanted to be a leader? No. Not that I've ever seen. Is there any sort of evidence that would lead to believe that she's anything other than a wife who was trying to support her husband in his life's work, his passion project, like one of the most devoted people I've ever seen to the cause that he started and to the organization that he founded and put his everything into it, and he was very good at it? Do you think she was anything but supportive of that? I have not seen anything that would lead me to believe that either. So why the fuck, under any circumstances, would there be some giant plot where, by the way, if you're setting this up, you're going to be stressed as hell, you're going to get caught, that, you know, if this was actually a thing, the behavior of people around them, the concern for their well-being, the concern that they're going to be found out and discovered, and that they're going to have their like they don't behave like people that are guilty of anything. They don't act in any way. And yeah, some people are really good at acting, but I can tell you, I've watched a lot of behavior from people like I don't know if you've ever watched the. I was just thinking about this earlier today. I don't know if you ever watched the Chris Watts investigation and the case surrounding that. I've been thinking of that around the case of what's her name? Freaking Mrs. Clancy, and her murdering her children, and the defense she's trying to put up. I was thinking a lot of Chris Watts and him killing his wife and his two children, his two daughters, and trying to hide their bodies, and then just going about the rest of his day like, everything was fine. First off, there's you find that because this is just an average couple, this isn't a couple in the public eye, but they had enough friends and family to be suspicious that something was wrong immediately. And by immediately I mean within the first 8 or so hours, because just because of events, appointments, things that were coming up in life that people were supposed to go to, and the insistence of a friend that no, she's pregnant, she needs to get to an appointment. Which, by the way, his wife was pregnant and was like 8 months, by the way. So, she's very pregnant and due pretty much any time. But the notion, and it seemed to be from Chris Watts, that he would put on an act of concern and just play the doting husband concerned for his wife's safety, and yet anytime there's a theory, you notice the way that he is navigating around the concepts that would imply in any way, shape, or form, or even suggest at all in any potential possibility that he is responsible, avoiding anything and everything that would be even slightly implicating on his behalf that had anything to do with him. And there's so much, and people forget this too, there's so much evidence to the contrary, including the idea that he usually goes to work at this time. Instead, he went to work at this time. There were neighbor cameras that caught him taking his truck and putting this in it, putting this in it, putting this in it, but from the way it's parked, you can't see anything he's putting into it. And there's also this problem of her kids were going to be enrolled in this class in September, and it was the middle of summer, and I guess it was the day before or something like that, or the day of. Chris called the school and made sure that there was no more need to keep them on. Now, maybe that would be something you would do, but if you don't know what's happened to them, why would that be the thing that you would do immediately? You're already calling to make sure that if they are around, they can't go to this anymore. It seems kind of strange that when you're trying to operate from a position of I have no idea what happened, and you're acting like they're dead, but you have no evidence to suggest for sure that they're dead, and you're their father, you're their direct parent, and the other parent is gone too, and this is your wife of 12 years or something, and that same thing there. You're not going to be able to put up a good act that you're concerned for their safety if all of your behavior suggests that you're already accepting pretty quickly and pretty easily, as a matter of fact, that that this is a case of them being killed already, and everything you're saying is that no, I hope they come back, but that just means that actually no, he didn't word it that way. He worded it that I want them all back, but that's also I hope they all are going to come back. The way he's wording it is I want them all back. Kind of natural, weird way. I mean, people, the words they use are almost always very, very deliberate. And in this case, it was really manipulative because the FBI, actually not the FBI, the Colorado, it was in Colorado, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, where the agent in particular was very, very good in this case. Like, he was really, really exceptionally good at navigating the sort of landmines that were placed out to attempt to trip them up and get them to be led into a different direction. And it also doesn't help that he's a terrible liar. He's not good at all at maintaining his sort of demeanor of... he's trying to put on an act, and it's terrible. It's just fucking god-awful. It was very easy to see through it when you weren't somebody who knew him personally and you weren't feeling any kind of emotion one way or another for either, him or his wife or anybody else like that. But the point is that when it comes to Erica, by contrast, nothing that she's done suggests that she knows anything more than she's letting on, that she's trying to word things specifically with the trial. Because when things like that are going on, the trial is always in mind. Anything that could be an event that would threaten your success at being able to successfully commit a crime and get away with it, that's always in top of mind, because self-preservation is always in top of mind. And that has never seemed like it's been Erica's perspective either. It's always been like Charlie has been top of mind. My husband and my children are always top of mind. And that's what it seemed like to me by viewing everything she said. It's never, ever seemed like there's any selfish intent anywhere. Like, that's not the perspective. Whereas when you listen to the people who are trying to poke holes, it's always operating around these ideas that, like, this could have happened, this, right? They all could be true, but, like, you have to also consider the fact that nothing that's happened supports that. Like, and this is the way that cases operate, right? You don't put forward a bunch of theories, you put forward the theories that make the most sense. And right now, the theory that makes the most sense is that there's a gunman who was involved. We know that this was the gun that belonged to Tyler Robinson and his family. And the only other things that you could possibly say as far as the gun would go that make any sense really... I mean, I guess you could say somebody else shot it, but why would they why would they use that gun? What's their relationship with this family, et cetera, et cetera? Whereas, Ed, like, how, even if you're barely operating a gun and you're just even if he had gotten up there and handed the gun off to someone else who was wearing gloves and operated it entirely to take the shot and then handed it back to him, which that's really implausible, but let's just say that's the case. To have no DNA from that guy anywhere on the gun, that would be very, very strange. To have nothing at all from an unknown party like that to be involved. That's like, DNA evidence can be so easily procured on anything that, once again, you may have never even touched it. You might have shaken hands with somebody who then went and touched it, and then your DNA would be on the gun. But that's not the case in this particular investigation. It's been narrowed down to a handful of people, including Lance Twiggs, and maybe he never even touched the gun, but Tyler did. So if any kind of DNA from him, which I don't even want to speculate on, was there, it could very easily be on the gun. It doesn't suggest Lance even ever shot the weapon. Even if it was on the trigger, it doesn't suggest that Lance even shot the weapon. The thing is, people are so have so little understanding of the way DNA evidence works that the speculation that people make on it is damn near, useless. It's not at all informed. There's nothing that you could, I don't even understand it all the way, but from what little bit that I do know, you're talking about microscopic levels of particles that come from any kind of object that you find that's related to the crime, and if you're collecting all the DNA evidence, then you're going to be staunchly looking for anything and everything that you could collect DNA from, and then you're going to be, what's the word? You're going to be handling it with extreme care to make sure that it isn't tainted any more than it's already been, to make sure that it's as close to its condition you found it in as possible, so that no other contamination can occur, and it can be properly brought to a forensic investigator to be able to find any kind of evidence that would be able to be pulled off the gun. Now, people, like I said before, I think I mentioned this point before, people do confuse DNA with things like fingerprint. Fingerprints are a form of DNA evidence, but they're not at all what is being suggested in this case for evidence that is talked about when they're talking about DNA. Like, fingerprints are a very good indicator, but they're very primitive by comparison to DNA evidence. And while it's true that it can be very helpful when you find that fingerprint evidence, there's measures that can easily be taken that will help with preventing any kind of fingerprint from appearing on like a murder weapon or something, whereas the DNA is going to be very, very difficult to remove from the case entirely. The only reason there's any kind of question whatsoever is because there's multiple pieces of DNA from different people, and that was a natural state it was in because it was a family gun. Like, it was a gun that was handed down from his great-grandfather or his grandfather or whatever, and it was converted into a 30-06. The original caliber is no longer made, so they converted it to a 30-06, and it fires that round now. But as far as the people who could have touched it, they have a pretty strong list of individuals, and unless you want to try and suggest that his mom, his dad, or Lance Twiggs are the actual shooter, that seems to be the extent of the DNA evidence. And it seems to me like, once again, all the ballistic stuff that people try to talk about, and when it came out that this was a soft point round, that's okay. That makes way more sense now, how there would be no exit wound, and it makes it way more easy to understand that there wouldn't be an exit wound. And once again, there's so much misinformation about hollow point rounds or soft point rounds that, once again, make it so that I listen to the arguments. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Hollow point rounds' specific purpose is to break up inside or on the target when it's hit, to leave no ballistic evidence. And even though, that is the way it works, the fragments can be collected to the point that you find all or almost all of them within the individual who or whatever was hit, to be able to reconstruct all or almost all of a full round that would be pulled from the whatever was shot. Like, so I've seen even gun channels that do this. Like, when a round gets fired, it breaks up, and they try to remove it from whatever they shot. They'll spend like an hour trying to find all the pieces, and sometimes they will find pretty much almost all of it, and they can put it on a table and show everybody that, man, geez, look how bad that. It's interesting to see, because a round, when it breaks up, it shatters into pieces. It's like shrapnel, and there's no telling, but there's no way to know, because you could have very, very, very small pieces that would break off, and they would be basically so small it would be hard to even see them, and have them, basically be still left behind. But it's not like those are critical pieces of evidence to find anyway, because I think it's pretty obvious to tell when you have that much of a round that you found. You're going to be able to tell the caliber of the gun. You're going to be able to tell if it's a rifle or if it's a pistol. You're going to be able to tell, basically kind of the overall distance it traveled, and you're going to be able to figure out enough parameters about the kind of weapon that was used and what kind of well, I'll just put it this way. You're going to be able to discover enough facts about it to be able to reasonably come up with a pretty good explanation of the firearm that was used in the crime. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy to find the firearm, especially in certain cases where, you have a gun that doesn't have a serial number anymore, or someone has done taken extreme measures to sort of disguise the crime and remove, like ditch the weapon and get rid of it. But this was a family weapon once again, and it was expected to be there, and they would not wanted to have that rifle just be gone. It's not only for the value it may have gone for as a financial aspect, but for the sentimental value that it would have had for their family member who was in World War II to have used this weapon, and then be able to still have it and fire it. And that's that's something that's very natural and wouldn't be surprising at all. So that's why this is such a weird case to be confused about, because there's weapons out there that you can use that are far less suspicious. Even Tyler, if he really wanted to hide his tracks, but here's what I feel like. He's already talked about committing suicide when he was found out. He's gone from one side of the political spectrum over to the other, and it seems to be based on his transition going from transition. I didn't mean it like that. His shift from going from high school to college, and in the college life, getting exposed most likely to some very extreme left-wing sort of ideology, because his family is traditionally a Republican Party voting family, and they're more prone to vote Republican than Democrat. And he had been for most of his life too, but when you get to be an adult, things kind of change. Everyone's gone through it. Everyone who's not a child has gone through it. And so if he really wanted to, he could have bought a gun, he could have rented a gun, he could have borrowed a gun, stolen a gun. If he really didn't want to be found out, there's a bunch of other means that he could have gone to get a weapon that wouldn't have been associated with his family. He chose to use that weapon, I'm sure, because of its proximity and it being the most convenient. And when it was found out, once again, I don't know if he actually... I think he didn't expect that he was for sure going to leave the campus alive when he was planning this. It just so happened that he did, but I don't think he had any idea what to do after that. I think that... And this is just speculation, but, when he confessed to the crime to his boyfriend on the text messages later that night, and he talked about waiting for his gun, but there are too many cops over there, and he was having to wait. I think at that point he already was kind of coming to terms, which is why he would admit it in the first place. He was coming to terms with the idea that they were going to find the gun, and by extension they were going to find him. And I think he probably at that point was already contemplating suicide as a way to make sure that they didn't catch him. But you can never predict what people are going to be able to do if you are unable to hide it from them, and you're like your family finds out, they confront you and find out what happened. And then, they start probing you. You're never going to be able to... there's no way you're going to be able to tell how you're going to react in that situation, because nobody would be able to react. Unless you're somebody like that piece of garbage Randy Stair or whatever, who was so angry at his family that he... his video before he went on his fucking murder spree was about, you never paid attention to me. You never paid attention to what I like to do. Oh, well, cry me a river, bitch. Like, jeez. So you're going to murder a bunch of innocent people because of that? Give me a break. But no, this is a case where obviously, and I don't know, there is a sort of, there's a question mark in this, which is, how much is Lance Twiggs actually guilty of something? Because, like I mentioned before, Blue Sky, and the left-wing websites out there, the people that all came out cheering. And then just the other day, Hassan Piker deciding to LARP again as Chairman Mao, the fat-ass fucking former leader of China, communist China. He was up on stage in his Mao outfit again, singing a song to celebrate Charlie Kirk getting murdered. Ironically, to do that, even though he's trying to fucking, he has a horrible singing voice, by the way. It'll murder your ears. But anyway, you still have plenty of leftists running around cheering about how great it is. You still ask a random leftist on the street what they think about Charlie Kirk's murder. They'll give you any excuse they can figure out as to why they can justify, well, I think he just put out so much division and hatred. He never put out anything divisive or full of hatred. Charlie was not anybody that ever put out anything that was full of hate. I watched this other thing that's kind of been shown a lot more lately, which was now that we're getting closer to the 1-year anniversary of the event, that Professor Sam Richards from that college, I can't remember the name of the college right now, but he's the one who videotapes his lectures and involves a lot of students in the discussions, and he's got a very for a guy who's definitely a center-left kind of individual who's working at a college as a professor who's teaching a sort of social I don't know what the class is, debate or discussion or whatever it is, but for a professor at a school like that to be teaching a course like that, he does bring up some points that are pretty controversial. And what was amazing was how much he got what a big problem this was. That we're not just talking about people kind of questioning the level of the rhetoric that was put out, and if it was divisive rhetoric, what kind of effect that would have. We were talking about moving way past that to the point that that's already a given. There's no excuse for, of all things, Charlie Kirk to be saying the things that he's saying. There's no reason for it. It's unnecessary. It's divisive, and it's evil, and it could lead to people being hurt. Well, it did. Yeah, it led to him getting hurt. But they're so fucking convinced that that their own side is so fucking virtuous that they come up with any and all fucking reasons to oh, thank you. Actually, yeah, what happened? I don't know what happened. Let's turn on another light. That should work. There we go. Thank you very much, man. I should have been paying attention to the chat. I've been off my own thought when I was trying to word this. It was getting really difficult. So, geez. So basically, the point is that it was a given at this point to the students in his class that no, it has nothing to do with the rhetoric being too extreme. That's already for sure, and he definitely deserved it. But do we want to always be taking such extreme action because it could promote the other side retaliating as well? That's the perspective they're coming from. Not that we may be taking things too far, not that our ideology may be putting us in a position where we're fucking murdering people. It's that, no, we don't want the Republicans, the evil Republicans, to start shooting shooting as well. So we better be careful because they might start, attacking us as well. Like, what kind of fucking sick group of individuals has gotten to a point where this is the rationale? There's no humanity. There's no concern. You've completely removed the humanity from the other side of the party to the point that people are celebrating it openly and singing and dancing and playing music and having a great old time thinking about Charlie Kirk getting murdered. And it's unbelievable that when you see somebody like Sam Richards, who is kind of probably a little bit more old school, traditional, Democrat that believes in the more like, you do you kind of thing, and it has nothing to do with violence. It has nothing to do with hurting somebody, but that's why you have things like Antifa. And maybe this is a good point to kind of end the video on. There was a recent interview with Andy Ngo, who, as far as I know, and as far as I've ever seen, is probably the best person like he was embedded with Antifa. He's investigated Antifa. He's been beat up and almost killed by Antifa twice. And he's exposed them more or less for the kind of organization they are, even though they have been defended by so many people on the left. They are a violent mob of anti-American, anti-West, violent thugs who are out to hurt people who have the wrong ideology. The bullet casings that Tyler Robinson left behind are enough proof, at least, to show that that he was at least exposed to the type of sentiment that is rampant in Antifa. And they are very good at evading capture because they operate in an organization that has no top-down structure, meaning Antifa is the name of the group. Actually, MS-13, believe it or not, has a similar, but at the same time, at least somewhat more organized structure. It's just not nationwide. So the difference would be like MS-13 has a structure where it's regional sects, or it's regional gangs that operate under its umbrella are still part of MS-13. They just are, they might have a name that's specific to them, but they still are under the MS-13 banner, or there may be, some other aspects to them that are reflective of the MS-13 name, but they are not they're not operating directly with everything they do being coming from a group of leaders that are all at the top. Like the leaders are whoever the regional leaders are. And it's similar with Antifa, but even worse because they will claim that there is nothing at all even close to like regional leadership, and that's kind of true. There's very, very few people in each group of Antifa. There's just enough there to, like, what they tend to seem to do is the very small group of them rile up all of the radicals in the area to kind of act out in a very violent and ideological way, even though they're not part of Antifa, and they're just kind of more sympathetic with the ideas. And that's how they are able to really instigate large-scale operations that end up engulfing whole cities and towns in violence, because they operate in a way to sort of unite any sort of protest group in the area to become more extreme, more violent, and all to kind of operate by focusing on one thing and then going that way, and then another thing, and then another thing. So they kind of direct the mob. And that seems to be the way that they have traditionally gone about handling any kind of thing they consider to be an opposition in the United States. But they're still very small and very unorganized as far as a sort of organization goes. And it seems like in Europe especially, there's a lot more of a kind of more organized and like the machine, every part knows what it's doing very, very well. Like it knows its role, it knows what it's there to do, and it doesn't have to ask any questions before anything it's doing. It knows what to do as soon as it sees a situation pop up. Whereas in this one, everyone is kind of more new at this thing, so they're trying to kind of earn the grade to kind of be recognized as part of a more international movement, but at the same time, they don't want that because they don't want the recognition. However, anonymously online, when you go and look at these people who are affiliated and their accounts, I mean, it's just nonstop propaganda and imagery, and it just blows my mind how a group like that goes around and condemns Nazis and condemns Hitler and Nazi Germany. Oh, and by the way, all those damn Jews in Israel, it's all their fault for this. It's like, what are we talking about here? What the fuck are we doing? Like, is there something that clicks off in your head to let you know maybe something you're doing is fucking stupid as hell, or do you have to have it told to you? Because I could tell you you're fucking retarded. But I guess, you probably won't want to listen. And if there's anything you take away from that, how dare you use the R word? Oh, no. Whoops. Oh, excuse the hell out of me. Jeez. Anyway, I guess I think I probably will end on this. And by the way, MLA, you're right. I'm going to need some help with Marvel, although you need a break after this because, my goodness, this went on a little bit longer than I thought. But this is probably the best way to end this. So let me pull this up, and we'll call it a day after this one. But I hope that was as I mean, when I first saw that show with Turning Point and Andrew Wilson, that was so freaking massive. And like I said at the beginning of the show today, it wasn't really that I didn't want to, or that I was trying to be the first or anything, but it was also the case that I know that my show's not on nearly as much as I want, and it's really hard to get to the point where I can do a show, and now I'm coming on super late because I can't make it earlier than this. So when I have something that is really big and really exciting that I want to get to, I hate having to hold off. And at the same time, I also kind of, I guess selfishly, I do want my perspective to kind of go out there and at least be something that is able to kind of compete alongside the other channel. Because the thing is, not to toot my own horn on anything, I just got to say it. I've noticed that, first off, a lot of the times when I feel like I have an idea that seems like it's right, and I'm just speculating, but it feels like I'm pretty much on the money on this one. It comes out, and everybody that's talking about the subject seems to agree, and then it comes out that just what I was thinking all along was kind of confirmed, and I haven't been able to even speak on it yet publicly, so I hate that. It just drives me crazy because I wish I can say it all I want, but unless I prove it by actually doing it, then it's not going to be taken seriously. And the other reason is because I don't know about you guys, but out there for me, there's been a lot of channels popping up lately that have been espousing a sort of conservative mindset or conservative talking points or conservative perspective by highlighting old clips and playing them for about 10 minutes. They don't even play the bulk of the video clip, much less the whole video clip, and reacting to it. It's a reaction channel to an extent, and it's bite-sized sort of clip. But, they don't do anything. They don't do anything. They don't say anything. It's like, and there's people that flood there for subscriptions and things. But like when I look at it, first of all, it's not because it's a reaction channel. I've seen tons of reaction channels, and there's some out there that are fantastic. Like, especially when, in particular, there's music reaction channels. I've seen I like a lot of the more recent vocal coach reaction videos where they listen to. One I saw recently was to Dragon Force. I thought that was awesome. With vocal coach that was reacting to Dragon Force. Oh, yes, that's awesome. But there's things like, a bassist reaction, drummer reaction. Those things are cool because you get a perspective of someone who plays music and is familiar with what's going on, and being, involved in music as well. I can say, yeah, this is interesting to hear somebody else who's in the same space and their perspective on it. But everything from that. I used to watch the guys that did hip hop reviews, and they'd play a song and then they'd kind of pause and kind of go over a line or they kind of hang on something for a little bit to kind of discuss some of the more, like if there's some double meaning in what they're saying or something. And you got to see like the real thoughtfulness that got behind some of the songs that were written. Like, man, damn, that guy's fucking crazy. He's fucking good as hell. but you can really appreciate it when it's through that lens. These people are doing nothing but like playing a clip, pausing it, and repeating the point that was just made, and then playing it and pausing it and saying, "Yeah, that's so that I agree with blah, 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 blah," and then playing it again. It's like they're adding nothing, they're showing nothing except for what's already been put out, and they're just interrupting it over and over again with their takes that have nothing new in them at all, and are just like a line of that's completely unnecessary thrown into a video that is usually at this point now sometimes anywhere from a couple weeks to a year or 2 years old, and interjecting their opinion in it. Like, okay. And from someone who puts out videos in the same length that I do, like, I don't expect everybody to like videos that are this long, but I would expect that there would be some appreciation for somebody who is going to do hours of video of their own opinions that aren't pre-scripted, that aren't pre-written down, and are coming directly from them. There'd be some appreciation for that over somebody who puts a video on for 10 minutes and just agrees with every point. And then that's what they do, and then they say subscribe. And it's like so it's driving me kind of crazy when I see these popping up all the time. There's new ones all over the place. I'm not going to call out any names, but I mean, it just there's so little effort there. It just is like it doesn't really upset me to the point of being angry, but it's just an annoyance. And then at the same time, it's like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And then I remember, oh yeah, it's because no one else is doing it, and it actually is something that I've seen can provide value, because long form discussion was the word that people used for a long time to describe why there was some success in the podcast and live stream space. And then that sort of went away as a talking point, the long form discussion and debate. Well, I'm doing exactly that, and I don't get much. I get great feedback from people that listen, but I don't get. I haven't, and it's because of the inconsistency mostly. I know that part very well, because believe me, it's something that pisses me off more than anybody else. But as far as everything else goes, it's like, can't we get some quality? Can't we get some quality channels popping up once in a while instead of just more of the same old slop all the time? Anytime there's a new channel that comes up, it's got to be this same thing, low effort, no energy, no charisma, no personality that's related, nothing. It's just some goof talking in a microphone over a clip I've seen 10 times already. Okay, you're right. And so, anyway, that's why I don't like coming in particularly late, because it already has been covered by everyone, and then these goofs have nothing to do with it. So, just trying to get the jump on this one, and I actually had the video ready to go, and then once again, through a series of events, a bunch of shit happened. It's like, nope, not today, not today, not today. Oh, and that's why this one was like, it's coming out now. It's not coming out now. You can pretty much write this one off as done. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to jump into this last clip. But sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tear. But man, I was going to say Marvel Tocon MLA. We need to get on that for sure, because oh Lord, I need some help there. I can't freaking get my team freaking figured out as far as like my final team that's locked in 100%. I've got like 3 kind of contenders, but I can't come to a final conclusion on that. Anyway, how long is this? Oh, geez, it's a lot. Well, I mean, there's not really. Is there any other alternative? I mean, I don't want to really change. I mean, I did have other subjects, but I don't want to get into them now, because I don't have time to go into them at all. But unless there's something I'm missing here, there might be. Hold on. Let me see. Which, by the way, I really. Oh, there is that. Yeah. I did talk about that, and it's kind of related on a side note, but kind of not. Let me see. Hold on. Let's see what we have. Well, how long have I done? I've done. Yeah, where's the? Where's the time? Ah, actually, you know what? If I do this one, that's probably about right because it's about 2.5 hours long. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this. This is. I'll do the Andy No clip. Let's go ahead and do this because Antifa. This does need to be talked about. Does need to be covered. I think they've kind of dropped out of a lot of the public eye for at least as much attention as they were given for a while there, and they are just as dangerous as they've ever been. So let's go ahead and pop this up, and we'll check this out. I won't interject too much, but like I said, Andy No, if there's anybody to listen to about the subject of Antifa, Andy No is probably the best person to go to. His book on this subject is absolutely an incredible book. It's almost Hunter S. Thompson levels of like gonzo journalism, of embedding yourself in the subject of your writing, and then trying to write on the subject afterwards, even though he was put in a hospital afterwards because of being involved with these fucking psychos. But here we go. Here's Andy No talking about Antifa and their influence involving the use of violence in political action. So let's do this.
Joining me now to discuss this is the journalist and author Andy No. Welcome to the studio. Welcome to Free Speech Nation. Thank you. I mean, if anybody in the whole world knows about far-left extremism and violence, arguably it's you. You've pretty much written the book about it, right?
Yes, I wrote a book about Antifa, but the violence in America has been going on for 70 years by the far left. Going back to since the 60s, there's been terror group after terror group that have committed all acts of atrocities, shootings, killings, jailbreaks, bank robberies, assassinations. And what's happened is that through institutional capture over the decades, from legacy institutions and media and academia, it's created this system where the denial of the existence of far-left terrorism is so mainstream, to the point where these type of, like what happened in the US Capitol with Secretary Rubio, there was huge pushback by Democrats, liberals, and media. And what was so important about this summit, this international summit, to talk about radical left-wing terrorism, is that it was the first time that the US State Department has ever acknowledged publicly in an international forum that this is a real problem. And, you know, addressing any type of problem that exists.
Because, you know, like I said before, we're talked to nonstop. We hear all these constant reports from people affiliated with the left that the most prevalent problem in the U.S. as far as domestic threats is violent right-wing extremism, and it's like, okay, name the places and organizations and events that have been examples, and they always point to just January 6th, and then sometimes they'll point to Charlottesville, and they don't realize how stupid they sound when they point that one out. Now that not only does their narrative about Donald Trump not work, but now they've got the fact that the Southern Poverty Law Center was the one funding all the freaking organizations that showed up there to promote white supremacy. So unfortunately, you know, that doesn't really hold up too well either. So, but once again, you know, this is the problem is that there's not even a consideration that there's even a thing called left-wing extremism. That's not even something that even exists. There's no extremist left-wingers. There's only right-wing extremists. And that's such bullshit, because all we've seen, especially since the advent of Donald Trump as president, that's the only thing we've seen is left-wing extremism. and you can point to the Proud Boys, and you can point to any other organization you want. You can point to QAnon of all things. Fuck, that thing's stupid, ridiculous. But then you remember, oh yeah, BLM torched a bunch of cities. Oh yeah, some nut that was in a relationship with a trans furry killed Charlie Kirk. Oh yeah, there's some other nut that tried to shoot President Trump once, and then there was about 4 or 5 other times they tried to kill him. Did anybody was anybody perched on a roof ever trying to take out Joe Biden? I don't remember hearing about that one, but maybe I think they're more convinced he's probably gonna wander off and he would take care of himself. I guess I don't. Bad joke. Sorry, but no. Anyway, here's Andy. Go ahead.
First step is to acknowledge that there's there's a problem, and because there's been a refusal to acknowledge it by Democrats, and they hold power in most urban jurisdictions in the United States, it's empowered more terrorism. We've had killings, assassinations, bombings, and shootings. This is not just an American phenomenon. In Europe, for example, just over the last winter in Berlin, a far-left group claimed responsibility for an attack on a power grid that put hundreds of thousands of people out of power in the middle of a very cold winter in continental Europe. An elderly woman died because of the lack of access to heat during that attack. Last week, there was a bombing on the home of a politician that resulted in multiple serious injuries, including the death of a woman. And right now, in this country, there's an active terror investigation into the assassination of former politician Ann Widdecombe.
Well, this is the thing, it doesn't fit the narrative, does it? Like the idea that there's left-wing extremism, left-wing violence out there, and when it is addressed, you get films like starring Leonardo DiCaprio, where he's the hero, where there is left-wing terrorism, but it's somehow okay.
Vigilante,
the narrative seems to be the last sort of 40, 50 years seems to be the right-wing extremism is the only thing that exists. And of course, right-wing extremism does exist, and it is bad. But by failing to, in any way, as you say, address the problem, do you think that's partly has sort of accelerated it?
Yes, and it's intentional because it creates a feedback loop. We've seen it in place. For example, recently there was convictions and sentencing of some of the Antifa members from a North Texas terror cell. They were involved in an ambush shooting on an ICE facility where a police officer was shot in the neck. All of the media response after that, liberal media response, is that they called it a protest, that these were activists, and that they were being punished with decades in prison for their political views. These are all lies. There was a trial in which all the evidence came out of a conspiracy, coordination, planning, gathering dozens of firearms, coming with weapons and guns to the night of the shooting, and then the actual shooting itself. That's just one example, one recent, many of...
We've got Charlie Kirk.
Exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up. What we saw in America, and what you're seeing now after Ann Widdecombe's murder, is that the people are openly celebrating it, inciting more about violence. That is actually very key to this ecosystem on the violent far left, because when acts of terror and violence is committed by their militants, they are socially validated by huge numbers of people online. It's not a tiny fringe perspective. You go on, you see people who are nurses, who are teachers, dancing in TikTok videos. So to call it a crisis is really an understatement. And the speech by Secretary Rubio was so brilliant because he lays out this history of going back 70 years of all these groups, like the Weather Underground in America, the Black Liberation Army, and others that have carried out attacks historically, and then more recently with the BLM Antifa riots after George Floyd died. I'm from Portland, Oregon. The fight against far-left violent extremism is deeply personal to me as a journalist because in the course of my investigations, I was nearly killed on 2 occasions.
I think we have some photos from one of those incidents. And the thing is that when something like that would emerge, like you said, that the narrative would be, oh, well, he's right-wing, he deserves it, as opposed to just condemning any kind of violence. In the UK, you had, politicians who've sort of been attacked. Nigel Farage, again,
Look at
with
that group of people behind
milkshake
him.
sort of thrown at him. I know that's not the same in any way physically to what happened to you, and we're not showing any photos of this other incident. There's famously the video that exists, and it just looks beyond horrible and the violence you sustained. Do you feel that now, with Senator Rubio's speech, that there might be finally some acknowledgement, at least from the left, or that the narrative of left-wing or far-left extremism can now start being addressed? Or do you think it's just going to be constantly pushed back because it doesn't? They would have to acknowledge that on their side, essentially, there are baddies too.
We will continue to see the pushback from those who have emboldened the violent far left, those like politicians in the Democrat Party and liberal media. Unfortunately, I would like to see them as allies in this fight against violent extremism, but they made it very clear they're not wanting to participate in it. That's okay, because in the course of my reporting into this, from my sources in the State Department, I've learned that what's important is that there are government officials from different countries, like in the EU and around the world, who may say one thing publicly, but what they do behind the scenes is cooperation with the US State Department, because they do experience and see this as a global, international problem of terrorism, where ideology is shared between North America and Europe, tactics, targets of attack, and sometimes money as well.
Well, we have an organisation here called Bashback. We talked about them last week, but they're a trans activist group, and they're espousing the violence towards. They're talking about sort of people's offices, but they're naming people. They're talking about buying hammers. They've already attacked Wes Streeting's office. Do you see that as a sort of direct correlation to what's gone on in America as well?
I do. In the course of my reporting on left-wing violent extremism, a phenomenon that I observed through getting records of arrestees and suspects during months of rioting in 2020 is that disproportionately a number of the suspects and convicts ended up identifying as transgender in some way. And there's been a phenomenon that's emerged in the United States as well in the UK in the last decade of trans violent extremism, where individuals who believe that their gender affirmation is so existential that they need to take acts of direct action. And as we see with groups like Bashback, and there's an American version of it as well, they call for violent direct action. And in my view, I think that what they call for are acts of domestic violence.
Absolutely.
And do you think it's a problem that's getting worse? Are we seeing it escalating now?
It is getting worse because as your government, my government has taken actions to, for example, limit puberty blockers for children or trying to cut back funding for some of the underage.
They see that as an existential threat.
It is. And in their worldview, being restrained is seen as being complicit in a genocide. So they use words as like genocide to describe this, and people like...
Quite familiar with people misusing that word.
Exactly. People like me and others who are critics of their worldview as being genociders who need to be stopped by any means necessary, including violence and more.
And do you think that the narrative is going to start shifting now because of the speech? Do you think it will make any difference? Because it does seem that from a lot of the violence that we've seen over the last few years, it does seem to be coming from the left. It doesn't. It's not to say that there isn't right-wing violence out there, that there aren't right-wing extremists out there, but what we are seeing
such a boogeyman
definitely seems to be coming from the left wing.
The narratives from the media is not going to change, but they've made themselves part of the problem, and if they want, the best thing they can do is just get out of the way and allow government officials to do what they need to do. They're going to continue to mislead the public, and it's up to independent journalists and journalists like yourself and others in the media to make sure that their lies are aggressively pushed back on and fact-checked.
Well, he's absolutely right about all that. But, you know, what's really crazy is that, as we've seen with someone like Nick Shirley, who goes out and actually personally investigates this stuff and comes back and gives, gives an sort of summary of what it was that they were able to find and discuss. Everybody on the opposition side will mischaracterize it, mischaracterize him, label him as something he's not, go after, like, try to suggest that there's something else that's motivating his action. It couldn't possibly be concern for, his country or his the state of the city that he grew up in, or the towns that he lives in, or places that he cares about. It can't be out of concern for those places. No, it has to be something else, because to suggest otherwise would be heretical. It's just, it's such an insane idea that it's not enough to oppose the other side. It's that anything that your side does is always benevolent. It's always good intention. They never do anything out of line. They never do anything unless you're like someone like, when it comes to like really getting pegged and there's no way out, then you might as well be fucking, you better be ready. They're going to kick your ass to the curb faster than anybody else. It was like what we saw with Eric Swalwell. He's their freaking star boy. He's going to be the next governor of California. And all of a sudden, all the leaks start coming out, and it's like, nope. Now he's not in the Congress. Now he's not running for governor. Now you haven't heard his name until recently, when it's been brought up again because of another scandal. So, so live by the sword, die by the sword, I guess. That's the only explanation you can come up with. But these people are ruthless. They are absolutely, totally not at all concerned about sticking to reality or the true course of events, and they will do anything they need to twist the current political climate to match whatever it is that they think will be in their favor, and stop any momentum that has like people moving away from them. But they don't ever consider for 5 seconds that maybe the fact that we're running around beating the shit out of people, destroying stuff, it might have something to do with us. Maybe we're the ones or maybe it's the sympathy for groups like fucking Hamas that might have something to do with it too. Maybe it's supporting candidates like Abdul al-Sayed, which next episode I'm sure we'll get into that fun stuff. Maybe it has to do with that. Maybe it has to do with any number of things that have happened over the years where the leftist perspective has been completely and totally in one direction, and if you are anybody who happens to disagree or present an alternative narrative, you're not only acting against them, you are, like he said, you are going to be one of the people who is excusing a genocide, and you don't care about the safety and security of innocent people, and they'll always use anything in their favor. It's like, I wish we could have gotten to Brian Shapiro today, but we're going to save that one for the next episode too. So anyway, I better not go too far off because I'll be getting into subjects for later. But that is basically the overall best way to describe it, is that there's still a very strong group out there that has no intention of stopping, and they've killed Charlie Kirk. And at the bare minimum, they are the people who put out the narrative responsible the most for encouraging the death of Charlie Kirk, and put out it goes back to that more than anything else I remember hearing in discussion was how racist he is because of what he said about black pilots, and that's because of a deliberate, intended misunderstanding and misquotation of what he said, which was that he was anti-DEI. It had nothing to do with being anti-black pilot. People that have half a sense of like any kind of rationality whatsoever can understand it, and yet that's not what leftists will accept as the narrative. It has to be all or nothing. There's no way to kind of give in to partial truths or anything. It has to be 100% of the time, all the time. Our word is gospel. That's the way it is. And if you don't agree, you are the enemy, which is how they can murder someone in the street in cold blood who's a conservative and walk away without a second thought. It's what almost happened to Kyle Rittenhouse until he defended himself because he was having his gun taken from him. We can see it over and over and over again, and it's people need to actually wake up, because things like once again, Paul Pelosi wasn't attacked by a conservative. The Hortmans wasn't attacked by a conservative. Then you have things like the healthcare CEO who attacked by Luigi Mangione, idolized by the left. Charlie Kirk murdered by a guy who had a trans furry boyfriend. Celebrated, cheered. And then Candace Owens has done everything possible to take suspicion away from him. These things do nothing but encourage more acts of attempted violence, or violence in complete, just flat out violence. And they are what anyone in this country, left or right, who wants to see an end to all of the divisive narratives. Anybody who is against all that, you have to remember that that's where the source of this is coming from. That is the source. So it's not QAnon. Anyway, that'll do it for me. Thank you very much. I will see you guys on the next one. I already have so much stuff planned. I'm going to try and keep it as timely as possible, and as coordinated with what's going on as possible. I know there's going to be probably, who knows what's coming out this week. It's going to probably be a crazy one. Last week it was my birthday, by the way. It was on Friday, I think was the day. It was 22nd. Yeah. That was, yeah. So anyway, I had, it went very fine, but it was very uneventful, I'll just say. Thank you very much. Anyway, so this week maybe will be a little bit more grounded. I might be able to do, I'm hoping to be able to just go back to at least doing 2 episodes a week. That would be a great goal, wouldn't it? Anyway, in any case, I will see you guys as soon as I possibly can. I'll make it as soon as I can possibly make it. I'm trying the best I can. But until then, thank you guys for watching. By the way, one last thing. I'll just make a quick mention. I've been seeing the numbers start to kind of come back as I've started to come back in, and I can't tell you guys, I appreciate it so much. I'm hoping to eventually see those super chats roll in one day. But until then, like I've said before, I know it's a difficult time for everybody, and the time that you guys have is not worth nothing. It could be spent on any number of things. So the time that you spend here that could be spent on any other kind of anything else, I don't want you to think that I don't take that as seriously as you might, because trust me, I get it. So thank you guys so much for spending your time over here and at least giving the show a chance, if nothing else. But for those who have been consistent viewers, which I know you guys are out there, thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. And I hopefully will see you guys sooner rather than later. But until then, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. And I'll see you next time. Peace.
5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow.
5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Right. Fucking thing sucks.